All right, welcome to another live episode of GeekOutdoors.com. And as you could probably tell by the title, there's going to be a lot of Google in the news this week. And so, I'm going to be talking about three main things as always. First and foremost, Google turns 19. Actually, they turned 19 a few days ago, this past week. And then we also got the fact that YouTube is blocking Amazon Echo, or actually, it did block Amazon Echo. And I'll explain to you what that means. And then finally, we have some more news on the Ataribox and how it will be running Linux, which is not that surprising. And so let's go ahead and get started. Now, before I really get into the news, I just saw some early reviews of Blade Runner 2049. It is a movie that I was kind of worried about, but the early reviews have been spectacular. So look forward to a review of Blade Runner 2049 later on when it's released this week. From everything that I've heard, it's going to be an awesome event. So definitely going to go check it out. And so let's go ahead and start with Google turning 19. Now, I did not realize that they had turned 19 years old. And in the whole technology world, 19 years is a very long time. You know, and if you think about the growth of Google or most tech companies compared to more established older companies, like for example IBM, they've been around what, maybe 100 years, I mean, if I'm not mistaken. And so what companies like Google, Facebook have been able to do, Microsoft, Apple, in a very short amount of time is pretty astounding. And so, you know, for a lot of people who actually use Google products, which pretty much everybody does, you know, there's going to be pros and cons, you know, with Google. And so, but I wanted to take this moment, since it is their birthday, to kind of like go over some of the things that Google has really done for not only the technology, but just as a whole. You know, I mean, when we think about these technology companies, I think a lot of times we only, I mean, especially as Geek, we primarily think about them from a technical point of view, or sometimes like personally how it affects us and only us, you know. But if you think about these things that these companies, these people have created, they impact us in many different ways, and just basically, you know, the world at large. And so, if you didn't know, Google, the original founding, it was Larry Page and Sergey Brin. I think most people know that by now. But it was actually incorporated in September of 1998. And they were both students at Stanford University. Very brilliant people. And they were mathematicians, as a matter of fact. And I'm pretty sure both of them were mathematicians. They're really good at that. And if you didn't know, Google, it's number one followed by 100,000 zeros, if I remember correctly. And if you actually go to Google's site, you know, you'll see all these Google Doodles celebrating that. And, you know, if you don't know what the Doodles are, they're on the very top. And one of the things that I remember when Google first came out was, at the time, you know, I think a lot of people were still using, of course, myself included, 1998, people were still using GeoCities, Yahoo. And it's funny because Yahoo definitely has a history with Google, because Yahoo was actually approached by Larry Page and Sergey Brin. They were approaching Yahoo and they offered to sell their company or basically be part of Yahoo, but Yahoo just laughed at them, you know. But now the tides have turned. And just some interesting statistics. Yeah, okay, so I'm sorry. It's Google stands for the numeral 1 followed by 100 zeros. That's a lot of zeros. And so some interesting statistics, and this is probably not anything new. I'm reading this off of a site, it's Recode, and it says, just to show you the immense amount of, you know, reach and power that Google has now since the 19 years. And so their mobile ad revenue, you know, and I talk about this a lot, okay? Talk about digital marketing. I talk about how companies like Google, like Facebook, pretty much every single company, even companies you do not think or associate with ads, they all use ads. You know, even the ones that you don't think, like even Apple, you know, remember they had their ad platform called iAds, you know. And so so their ad revenue from digital and mobile ad revenue, it was nearly $50 billion this year. So that's like, yeah, 67% of their digital revenue. And that's up from $38 billion in 2016. Okay, so if you're the type of person who's familiar with Google AdWords, you know, basically all the ads that you see online, or when you are doing searches on Google, it's going through the Google AdWords platform. Okay, people just don't get up on there for free if they're like trying to put their business or whatever they want to put up there. They have to pay for it. Okay, and so it's not slowing down. You know, and I've talked about Facebook ads. I've talked about Bing ads. There's you know, Twitter ads. There's Instagram ads, which is part of Facebook. There's Snapchat ads and Amazon ads. There's more and more ad platforms coming up. And so this number is going to continually grow. And Google has been the leader in that a long time. However, their leadership is kind of dropping because there is a lot of competition there. And so in 2016, Google owned 90.3% of the search engine market. And as of July 2017, they only own, or I wouldn't say only, but 86.8%. So that means they are being affected by all the competition. And I can guarantee you that Apple is going to come back with iAds. You know, they tried it. It didn't work out too well initially, but they got a lot of money. They have a lot of money, and they have a lot of expertise in many areas that they can pull from. And so expect Apple to come back as an ad platform competitor here real soon. You know, I expect that maybe next year they'll probably try it again. And some other things, you know, as you know, Google, they own YouTube and they also own Android, you know, but it's kind of interesting how those two stories come out. And I'm kind of like going to different places because, you know, with this whole 19-year anniversary of Google, I'm trying to think of like things that I think are important and kind of things that I remember myself. And so YouTube was actually founded by Chad Hurley, Stephen Chen, and I can't remember the other guy. There's 3 co-founders. Hey user program, how's it going? How's your Linux system running? Can we see it? Well, actually I just run stuff in the background, and you can't really see it anyway, so whenever I do my live episodes. But if you've seen any of my videos, I just basically run Linux Mint, you know, but in terms of how it runs, awesome, as always. So Google purchased YouTube, I think in 2005, and that was at the time the highest amount they ever paid for a acquisition. It was like $1.65 billion, and now that's kind of laughable because even an app program like WhatsApp was purchased like for what, 16 billion or 12 billion. I can't remember, some insane amount by Facebook a few years ago. And then, as you know, Android, YouTube, they didn't purchase in 2005. I'm thinking of Android. But Android, as you know, was founded by Andy Rubin and his team, and then Google purchased Android back then as well. I think that was the 2005 one. But as you could see here, Google has made a lot of moves in a lot of places, you know, besides just search. And if you actually look at the top 10 mobile apps, the #1 mobile app as of 2017 is still Facebook. But after that, it's YouTube, Facebook Messenger, Google Search, Google Maps, Instagram, Snapchat, Google Play, Gmail, and Pandora. So Google is up there, okay? And so Google, since the beginning, they've always been looking at ways to expand their reach, okay? Because I think every single company, whether they're in the technology space or not, they want to be everywhere, you know? Shatter, good morning, Shatter. Hey, how's it going? And it just shows that, you know, these companies, they really want to have you inside their ecosystem. And I know I talk about this a lot, okay? And a lot of times when we think about an ecosystem, we're thinking about primarily software, okay? But it's not just software. You know, they want you to purchase their products physically. Just think about Amazon. Amazon is in the software ecosystem. They're in the hard products ecosystem, and they're also in the services ecosystem, obviously. And they just bought Whole Foods, you know, as you probably know, and all of these companies want to be everywhere. And whether you're Apple, Facebook, whatever, you're going to be using their services or buying their products in one way or another. And I think Google, in my opinion, they probably has the furthest reach, in my opinion, right now, because a lot of people, you are using Google services whether you know it or not. And when you think about the Google search engine, if you do ads, you'll understand that Google search engine, okay, they're not going out to the internet per se. You know, they actually store copies of your website, or they actually index the information from the entire internet onto Google servers. Okay, so hey, good morning, Rose. And so they're basically almost, in a lot of ways, they are the internet, but they're not. Okay, and so, but they're indexing all these different websites. And so Bing Ads does the same thing by Microsoft. Whenever Facebook releases a search engine, I'm pretty sure that they will, then they're going to be indexing the entire internet as well. And Apple will too. Who knows when they're going to do it, but I'm pretty sure Apple's going to try to have a search engine as well. So all of these companies are trying to do the same thing. And I think, in my opinion, Google is the best at it right now. And then second to them, I would say, initially I was thinking Microsoft, but now I'm thinking Amazon because they're in more places. So let me, I think I had my, okay. So let me see, got some comments here. So US VR program said, did you hear about the new Google Pixel coming out? I really feel like Google purchased HTC is a sign Google wants to take on Apple and hardware. I totally agree. Yeah, you're right, USB program. I actually did, my last week's episode was about HTC being purchased by Google, and you're absolutely right. And that's perfect that you asked that, because it's just exactly what I just said earlier. These companies want to be everywhere, right? So not only in the software space, but also in the hardware space as well. And so not only with their phones, but I'll be talking about this later, their home devices as well. And you remember Google purchased Nest, the thermostat, and they have self-driving cars with Waymo, so they want to be absolutely everywhere, and so in the future, it's so funny. Initially at the beginning of this episode, I talked about Blade Runner 2049, where they had early reviews. And if you remember the very first Blade Runner, and even Aliens, Terminator, all of them, in the future, everything's going to be owned and run by ultra mega corporations, and that's where we're heading. And so and it's really no way around it, because everything that you use in one form or another is going to be owned by a corporation. And so hey, what's going on, Gaza? Hey, Rose, good morning. Shatter, good here, matey. Thanks for asking, Geek Outdoors. Awesome. Hello, Gaza and Shatter. All right. Oh, God, thank you so much for all of you for joining. And so if you're just coming in right now, I'm talking about the first bit of news is Google's 19th year anniversary, and just talking about some of the things that I remember, and also some important points, and then kind of like my thoughts of where things are heading. And I'm glad that you brought up the HEC thing, because this leads directly into the second point of my news, and this is kind of together, okay? And this is where, when these companies are stretching out in so many different areas, they are gonna battle each other, and they're going to be partners with each other as well. And so this leads into YouTube being blocked on Amazon Echo, okay, on specifically a device called the Amazon Echo Show. Now, if you're not familiar with what an Amazon Echo is, it's basically a smart device, okay, with a speaker that listens to you, and then it uses advanced artificial intelligence to bring you back results, okay? And for a lot of people, this is nothing new. We have that on our phones. If you're using an Apple iPhone, you're using Siri. If you're using Google Android, you're using Google services, And then, using Samsung, they have the Google services plus Bixby. And so the notion of an advanced AI on your device is nothing new. But the difference that these home devices have is it's a part of your home. Okay, and so Amazon Echo is very popular, and they have competing devices. That's why I say this is similar with Google. They have Google Home, and obviously Apple, they have their Apple TV, and they also, and there's other smart devices, but I think those are the main ones, okay? But normally when I think about smart home devices, I'm either thinking of the Amazon Echo or the Google Home, okay? Now, Amazon, they actually fired the first shot at Google, I think, last year, when they stopped selling Google Chromecast on Amazon's website. That was really surprising to me, because Amazon sells absolutely everything. But they stopped selling Google Chromecast because it's competitor to their Amazon Fire Stick. Okay, now we're seeing this where, okay, you did that to us. Well, we're going to block YouTube services on your Amazon Echo Show. And what the Amazon Echo Show is, it's a speaker, but it has a screen on top. And so you could do a search, or say, hey, go to YouTube, you know, and it will bring up YouTube on the screen. And now Google has blocked that, okay? And so let me see what other comments are. So Shatra said, Google turns 19 and don't be evil, kiddo. LOL. That's funny, Shatra. You're right. Yeah. Rose, I could see very soon Canonical will be taken over by Microsoft. Yes, Rose. I think they already have, in my opinion. I mean, yeah. I think you're right about that for sure. So Shatra says, 19 years old Google, kiddo. Yeah. And so, like I said, you know, they are competitors, but they're actually in partnerships with each other as well. I mean, if you look at a lot of these companies, they actually work together more than they battle each other. You know, because in one sense, you kind of have to. Okay, because when you're like such large companies and when you have so many products and services in so many areas, you're bound to have some interaction with each other. And at the same time, except for companies like Apple, where Apple is so powerful, they have so much money, they don't really have to play nice with other companies, you know, for the most part. They still do. Like, for example, Amazon doesn't have a search engine, right? And so before they were using Google, they had Google Maps, but now they're using Microsoft Bing as their search engine, and they're using a open source map for now until they could create their own. So that's why I really feel Apple, it will be creating a search engine. They will be bringing back their ad platform first. I'm pretty sure they're going to do that first with iAds. And so, yeah, so anyways, when Google blocked this from Amazon service, I'm like, in one case I get it, okay? But in another case, I'm like, man, this is going to suck. Because, you know, Facebook is doing that with YouTube as well. Before, if you use Facebook, if you post YouTube videos on Facebook, no problem, all right? But now, if you do that, you actually get penalized. I mean, not to say your account's going to get blocked or anything, but Facebook's not going to give you the recognition of that post, okay? It's not going to give you a lot of push, okay? And things like this are happening all over the place. And in the future, I think it's going to suck because you might want a product or service, right? But if it's on this competing platform, or even like if you're doing a search engine, you know, who knows in the future, they might block like certain searches because they're related to their competitor, you know? And I don't know. I kind of think that's where it's heading, which sucks. And so let me see what else is shown here. So Ubuntu and Microsoft work together to tailor the Microsoft Azure with Linux kernel. I did say bye-bye Ubuntu a long time ago. Yeah, Shatter. And you know, the thing is, and I've said this many times before, it's not going to stop because, I mean, I always go back to this. It's business, okay? You know, a lot of people, they might want to think that, you know, these businesses, they're either, they're evil, okay? Or they feel like, oh, because I use your service, you should not work with other companies, or you should always do things for the good of everyone, you know, but that's really not how it works, unfortunately, you know. I mean, they're always going to do what's in the best interest of their business, of their shareholders, and also the people who work for them. I mean, and I've said this before, you don't have to agree with everything a company does, but just remember that most people work a job, right? I'm pretty sure you work a job. And you work a job, you're working for somebody who created that business. Just remember that. Somebody created that business in order for you to have a job. And so if you think about all these big companies, right? They were small and they're big. Now they actually are responsible for taking care of thousands and millions of people around the world. So just think about it that way. And you know, think about your smartphone. Think about internet services. Think about your computer. All of these things were built by people. You know, even if they're machines, there's people behind it. And so they have to get paid. And so, and they can't get paid if businesses are not making money. And so whenever I think about all these things that are going, of course, I myself, I might not agree with that, okay? But at the same time, I understand why they're doing it, okay? Because at the end of the day, there's people behind all of it, you know, and they have to make a living as well, okay? So until we get to the point where money doesn't matter, and then by that point, money doesn't matter, but you're pretty much going to have to trade something else, okay? I don't know what I got off of that tangent, but let's go ahead there. Ubuntu sucks. Gaza says it would be a lot cheaper when they're buying Red Hat. Yeah, Ubuntu sucks. So not only Canonical, but Red Hat, Linux, SUSE Linux, 2 rows. If you say why I'm using Fedora, the answer is it's driven by community with KISS philosophy. KISS is keep it simple, stupid, and free software. I think it's time to start breaking up these mega companies based on this oligarchy positions. Yeah, Rose, I don't think that's going to happen. It's just not, and if you're old enough to remember, at least in the United States, when they broke up the Bell companies because it became a monopoly, if you're running a business, you're not going to be stupid about it. I mean, you could try to break it up all you want. You just diversify, or you just get smarter with what you do. And so if you are running a successful business, all of these things don't matter. I mean, just going back to the point of, it's all related, with Amazon being blocked by YouTube. I really think the future, although I'm very optimistic about where technology is going, I just feel like instances like this and many other things, I think in a lot of ways, it'll be more limited. Okay, and I have mentioned this in other videos before, but think about like things right now. Well, let me say it'll be more limited in certain areas, and it'll be more expensive as well. Okay, and Rose says, just wait when Geek has to pay for using Linux Mint because of Ubuntu Microsoft control. Yeah, Rose, I'm pretty sure that's gonna happen. Okay, and I'm gonna explain why, because as we're going forward, and that's why I was saying we're going to be limited in more areas, but in some areas, and then in some areas we'll still maybe have more freedom. Okay, because I have mentioned this in another video where eventually you're going to have to pay to access the internet. Okay, and a lot of people right now, they feel like the internet is free. It's not free. You have to pay for servers to have all these websites on. You have to pay for the people who manage all the networks. It's not free. All the people working at this company, like Google, Facebook, Apple. You get on the internet, there's costs, and so as more and more people get on the internet, as more and more people are doing not only their business on the internet, but also spending a lot of time and their money on the internet, then eventually in the future, you will have to pay to even go to internet websites. That's already happening right now. But in the future, everything you're going to have to pay. My opinion, okay? Because it's simply, it's not going to work in the long term because costs are going up. And the reason I tell you this is because, I do ads on the back end. I do Google AdWords, I do Facebook ads. And I just mentioned a little bit earlier how much more companies are spending on ad spend on the internet. And this is like goes across everything, okay? So what I'm saying is the cost to do business on the internet is getting more and more expensive, period. Okay, and it's not gonna stop. It's not. It's gonna keep increasing, okay? Because of that, your cost to access the internet is gonna increase as well. So in the future, you're probably gonna have to pay for everything. It first started out with little things. Let's think about Netflix, right? Netflix isn't free. And then guess what? Apple started offering movies. Google started offering movies. Amazon started offering movies. And then next, they have the internet paywall for each website. Next, you're gonna have to pay for YouTube just to get on YouTube. Okay, so, and they're testing this out. And I know because like I said, I work on the back end. You see things that are going on that people who aren't in the industry, they don't see that. And so ad costs are going up. The costs to run the businesses are going up. And there's more money to be made on the internet. There's potentially more money. But in the overall scheme of things, the majority of business, the internet sales, it only accounts for like 13%. The rest of the business is still physical. So there's a lot of room for growth. So just kind of prepare for paying for more stuff on the internet, period. There's really no way around that. Okay, let me see. US program says, I'm very concerned about putting an always watch, always home listening device in my home. User program, thank you so much. That's actually what I wanted to talk about as well. Okay, the Amazon Echo, Google Home, Apple TV. Even though I think as consumers, our phones as well, or our smart TVs, as consumers, we're like, wow, this makes our life more convenient, right? But from the other end, okay, from the business end, right? You could collect more data, period. The AI, it's not going to forget things. it's going to remember your patterns. You know, like for example, if you use Google Home, Apple Siri, or any of these AI services, right? It's kind of funny how they remember, you know, what you ask for, right? What you search for. And it remembers your habits as well. Although this makes your life more convenient, they've collected more data. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. Everybody, every company, even people, we collect data. You need to collect data. Okay, it's just that the way that the data is being used, that's the part that is really gray, and that's the part where I'm concerned about myself. Okay, and I work on the back end, so I see a lot of data. Okay, but with the artificial intelligent devices, the amount of data that they collect, the amount of, like, I would say processing that they can do, it really is amazing to me. But at the same time, it's absolutely scary. Okay, because like what a user program saying, it's always listening, it's always watching, you know, and so that's creepy. Okay, just think about the Nest thermostat inside your home, right? Okay, it's monitoring your temperature and stuff, right? But then it's connected to your home device, your Google Home or your Amazon Echo, right? And then that's connected to your smartphone, and then that is connected to your smart TV, and then your refrigerator has internet as well, right? And so, and then you have your robot that cleans your house, and then you have your car that can also talk to each other. And so all of this stuff, they're all sharing your information. It's crazy, okay? And it's kind of weird that I talk about it that way because I work in data. But at the same time, I think as geeks, we kind of play both sides of it. You know what I mean? So you understand technology, but at the same time, your understanding of technology kind of makes you in some ways paranoid as well, because you kind of know what can be done with it. Okay, so okay, Shatter say nope, Debian, Ubuntu, Red Hat, SUSE, Arch has more software support in Ubuntu. Wonder War. I pay through my ISP providers, WRC with DRM. Yeah, but you know, regardless, Rose, that data, even if it's DRM, it does not matter. I mean, like I said, our smartphones are the best data collecting tool ever made. You know, it's not just one spot that they collect data. They could collect data from millions of points. And so, you know, we talk about this quite a bit, but it's the whole paranoid side of us. There is no privacy, period. You know, all you can do is just try to control the best you can, but there is no privacy. I mean, it's gone. It's my opinion. Even if you do not use the internet, I've said it before, your government collects data on you. You have to give it to them, so it's impossible. And so, Gaza, long live Pirate Bay. Yeah, who knows? Pirate Bay is actually probably owned by Google or Microsoft behind the scenes. You never know. User for Geek, subscribe to my channel too, please. Yeah, user for Corey. I'll just say I will subscribe to people's channel if it's something that I'm interested in. So I don't subscribe to a channel just because people want me to subscribe. So I don't do subscribe for subscribe. But if it's interesting, I will. Okay, so Rose, I would never buy these Amazon Echo, Google Home, more spine collection data sell to third parties. The reality of 1984, yes. What videos are you making, user? Okay, 1984 has been here for a while, but it's getting worse. Yes, I agree. Gaza, and you have a choice to opt in or opt out. You do what makes you feel comfortable. Yes, Gaza. Exactly. I would agree with you right there. And so, so that whole conversation about YouTube blocking, you know, Amazon Echo from showing their services and how Google's growing, it's all related. There's a lot of good things that these companies have done. You know, first and foremost, they provided us with technology and services that have actually improved our lives. Just think about that. Just think about the world before Google search. You know, imagine a world without YouTube, okay, or Android, or many of these other services that you use every single day. I would not be talking to you right now if Google was not invented by these two people, Sergey Brin and Larry Page. And so, you know, in some cases, a lot of people, myself included, you know, we do not like some of the things that companies do. You know, Microsoft, there's, you know, I don't like Microsoft Windows, you know, but at the same time, I cannot deny the fact that they've done a lot. Okay, they've done a lot for the world, whether it's Google, Microsoft, Facebook, Apple, you know, and many other companies. And once again, a lot of people, they take care of a lot of people. A lot of people would not have jobs. Millions of people, actually billions, if you look all around the world, they would not have jobs. And so they create jobs, they create communities. So when you think about those aspects, they've done a lot of positive things for the world, okay? And then for the things that don't do so well, then you don't have to agree with them, you know? So you can use whatever product and service that you want. But for Google 19, congratulations to Google for turning 19. Thank you for giving us YouTube so I could make this video and talk to people here. Thank you for purchasing Android so I can use this on my Android device. And so, thank you, Google. And so, yes, let's go ahead and move on to the last part of the news. And, you know, we normally talk about Linux anyway, and every episode, and yes, that's right, Rose. Ataribox Linux. Yes. And Rose says, Xerox made the GUI interface for computers, but people forgot this company, even Steve Jobs admitted. Yeah, I mean, that's part of history, like, for example, Yahoo had the opportunity to buy Google, but they didn't, right? And so, yeah, it's all a matter of perspective. And so, let's talk about the Ataribox, okay? A few months ago, I did an episode where Atari released like some CG renderings. I thought it was real pictures, but it wasn't. CG renderings of their Ataribox. And if you're old enough to remember the Atari, my very first Atari was the Atari 2600. I also had the Atari 5800. And the old school Atari actually had wood grain. And so this new Ataribox had the wood grain finish, and then it also had one without it. Okay, but once again, those were renderings. And now we've actually got more news, more details on actually what the Ataribox is going to be. Okay, at first I was like optimistically skeptical, because Atari is not who they used to be. Okay, and so when Gaza's saying I had the wood grain finish, how old am I? You're not old, Gaza. You've just experienced a lot of cool stuff. Okay, so. George Shep was, hey, good morning, George. How's it going? Thanks for joining. And so the Ataribox, not many people knew what it was about because all it was just like renderings and stuff, right? But now we have more details. And so Atari is saying the Ataribox is going to be priced around $250 to $300. It will have an AMD processor inside. And this is the thing that caught my attention. But it's not too surprising. It will be running Linux, okay? And so, for all of us who use Linux, like everything uses Linux. I mean, I'm sorry, everything uses Linux. Your refrigerators, probably your garage door opener, definitely all your networking devices. So when people say, Microsoft dominates Linux, well, yeah, in the desktop operating system, but everywhere else, Linux is everywhere, And when I say Linux, I don't mean specifically Linux GNU, which is actually the Linux operating system. I mean Linux kernel, okay? It's everywhere. And so they're saying it's going to be $250 to $300. And like I said, it will have an AMD processor. It will be running Linux. I'm not sure which version of Linux. I'm thinking it's going to be Ubuntu based, more than likely. And I'm sorry, they also said it's going to be like crowdfunded on Indiegogo, and man, I don't know, man. I kind of had like I said, I was like cautiously optimistic, but Atari doesn't have a good track record. I'm sorry. I mean, I think the last time like I could trust in Atari was probably like the mid 1980s. The last Atari system I had was the Atari Jaguar, and that was awful. Absolutely awful. I mean, I don't know if any of you had the Atari Jaguar. The only games in there that I really liked was Tempest 2000 and Aliens vs. Predator. I don't think I liked any of the other games. I absolutely hated Cybermorph. So, yeah, Atari has not had a great track record. And now with this, and I mean, a lot of people were guessing they were going to crowdfund it anyway. And yeah, they're going to crowdfund it. And at a price of $250 to $300, that's not going to work. I mean, and they're using off-the-shelf, hardware. Okay, and I think other people, I think Gaza, you said it. What did you say? I think, okay, Gaza says the price point is way off. In my opinion, yes, especially when you can use an emulator. Exactly. Try maybe Ubuntu Mate. Yeah. So I think at that price, $250, $300, that's way too much. Why? Because you could get a PlayStation 4 or Xbox One for that price, or lower, right? So, and the difference is Sony and Microsoft, number one, they have a ton of money. And so they have way more money than Atari does. Number two, they're well established. They have a ton of games. Actually, that's probably the most important thing. They have a ton of games. They have a lot of third-party support. And so if Atari is going to be releasing this, it's basically just going to be another streaming device. Just think about the NVIDIA Shield, right? And the NVIDIA Shield still is like $300. So if you are purely a gamer, don't think you're gonna buy this. I mean, even if you love Atari, like Gaza pointed out, I'll just use an emulator. I use emulator anyways. You know, I mean, I don't see a point of doing this. I mean, even if Atari released some games specific for Atari, I don't know who would get excited about. You know, I mean, so Gaza says, I'm getting pretty distracted with the Bollywood film, having to multitask. Yes, Gaza, you know, I did a review of Dangal earlier in the week, and this week I'm actually going to be doing a review of Bahubali Part 2. This movie is awesome. And so, as you know, if you watch my channel, you know I love movies. And so I'm watching, I watch a lot of international films. And so I haven't seen Dangal, so I watched that earlier in the week. And now I have not seen Bahubali 1 or Bahubali 2, but I heard Bahubali 2 was better, and so I'm going to watch that. And so just look forward to reviewing that in the future. You know, I do lots of different reviews. I'm definitely going to be doing Blade Runner 2049, but for all the people who love movies out of India, or even just movies in general, if you have not seen Dangal, watch Dangal. Bahubali 2, I've already watched most of it, but this is an epic film, so I will be doing a full review on it. So if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's on Netflix. It's awesome. Let me see what else. So George Trappist is saying Atari Linux, hell no. Yes, George. I love Linux. All of us do, but nah. I'm not going there. I mean, not gonna spend my money on that one. Rose, I would rather give some money for the Libra 5 phone for their crowdfunding. Yeah, Rose, me too. Yeah, I would rather do that. So you know, if Atari, like, in my opinion, if Atari, number one, if they didn't price it $250, $300, let's say, for example, they price it at $200, I would get it. I mean, if they were able to offer Atari exclusives, yeah, I'd probably get an Atari box because I grew up with Atari. You know, if they could bring back some of what made Atari special, and you know, Atari's changed so much. It's changed a lot, okay? But if they could bring some of what was special about Atari to the modern age and then keep that for themselves, you know, kind of like what Sony does with their exclusives, kind of like what Microsoft does when they do have exclusives, then I think that'd be worth it. But you can't like price it at the same price as other companies that are way more successful, they have more financial backing, and they have a lot of support, okay? So if Ataribox was to release at $200 and they had Atari exclusives, I would definitely consider it, because I don't mind having a streaming box. I actually considered buying NVIDIA Shield, but it's kind of too pricey for me, okay? And secondly, the way that Atari is doing this, they're crowdfunding it, that's just bad news, okay? I mean, I support crowdfunding. I mean, I've supported Shenmue, I've supported, what's the other Ikuragu game? I can't even remember now. Bloodstain, okay? And I don't mind crowdfunding. But I kind of see where this is going. A lot of times companies would do crowdfunding to do a test whether or not there will be demand, and then they will find funding to produce the product. And seeing Atari's track record, it'll just end up bad. Okay, that's just my opinion. I mean, especially right now with hearing what they're announcing. So Rose is saying Atari should make Linux games. Yeah, they should make Linux games. Yeah, like, wow, that's, you know, Rose, you should probably send an email to Atari, because that's probably a way better business decision than trying to come up with the Atari box. And yeah, if this is even close to being successful, I would be absolutely shocked. Okay, but it will be running Linux, and so you know, it kind of makes me think about Steam boxes, right? Because I mean, I still really feel that Steam box still has an opportunity, okay? And I'm kind of disappointed that whenever Valve they announced the Steam box, actually the very first episode of Geek Outdoors that I did almost 2 years ago now, I actually talked about the Steam box, the Alienware. I'm pretty sure I did. And I was still optimistic back then, and I'm still optimistic now, because I really feel that we need something like that, okay? Not only will it provide more competition to not Sony and Microsoft, either in the consoles but also in the PC realm, but it's Linux underneath it, right? I mean, that'd be awesome. That'd just mean if more people buy Steam boxes, okay, that means more developers will produce games for it, and since it is Linux based, that just means more games for everybody who uses Linux, okay? I mean, I love playing games on Steam through Linux. I'm still amazed by it, and so I'm really hoping that Valve does not quit on the Steam box. I really don't, you know. I really hope they keep going with it, because I would love to have some more games on Linux on Steam. Okay, so put them on Steam. Yeah, once Atari makes games for Linux, they should put them on Steam. And so that is the primary news that I had this week. You know, first the whole Google news, not only their 19th year anniversary, but also them blocking Amazon Echo from showing YouTube videos. And then the Ataribox running Linux. You know, I was just excited that Linux was in the headline with Ataribox, which is really cool. And honestly, that got me more excited than actually the details of the Ataribox announcement. So yeah. So Gaza is emphasizing. Has anyone seen the latest Blade Runner short movie? Oh yeah, so Gaza, you're referring to the anime short movie, right? I haven't seen it yet. I saw it when I was watching the reviews, and George Trapper says even if they make J for Linux, they put it on Steam, probably will be overpriced. Yeah, you're right, George. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, they will probably overprice it. Yes. No, Gaza, I have not seen that anime short, but I will watch it. Who knows, I might even do a review on it, but probably not. It's a short, but I'm really, you know, since I don't think anybody's seen the movie yet besides the reviews, but you know, I want to keep this at an hour, so we got about 10 or 15 minutes left. So let's talk about Blade Runner, because I definitely will do a review on the entire movie, Blade Runner 2049. Rose says, I would like to see Blade Runner. I enjoyed the original. You know, Rose, I have said this before, but Blade Runner, it's one of my top 5 movies of all time, of any genre. As a matter of fact, my top movies of all time is the Star Wars trilogy, the first one, not the crap that came in afterward. I'm sorry. And second movie is Blade Runner. I remember watching Blade Runner, and this is back when we had VHS tapes, okay? And when I first saw it as a kid, I didn't know what I was watching, but it was awesome, you know. And I still to this day say that Blade Runner, movies like Blade Runner, the effects still look awesome today. And not only that, but the story, the characters, in my opinion, they have yet to be equaled. There's not been a movie, in my opinion, that does what Blade Runner has done, okay? Because they predicted a lot of things, okay? So taking out the sci-fi elements, and Rose is saying VHS tapes with a question mark. Yes, I had a Betamax too, by the way, if for all the kids out there who don't know what that is. I had a Betamax and a VHS. But so Blade Runner, if you think about it objectively, okay, just from a technology standpoint, just think about it this way. Gaza says, I saw it on Betamax. Yeah, me too. And so, okay, so Blade Runner, the elements that they were talking about, okay, let's talk about some of the futuristic elements that they were talking about, and they're still relevant to this day. And the funny thing is, Ridley Scott was behind Alien movie, and he predicted this, or maybe the people who did the research on it. But Blade Runner, Ridley Scott, once again, some of his predictions, they're coming true, and they're true right now. Okay, so first and foremost, they predicted mega corporations, and we are definitely heading that way. Just with the companies I talked about. Google, Apple, Facebook, Microsoft, mega corporations. We're already there. We're already heading there, okay? Secondly, and if you watch Blade Runner, you will know this. Blade Runner, if you notice, there is a lot of Chinese people in Blade Runner, right? You remember the scenes where he's walking through, it's like Chinese / English, right? Well, there's a reason for that. the top two population in the whole world is China and India. And so they already knew that back then. And so in the future, all of us in the whole world, you're going to have to learn Mandarin and you're going to have to learn Hindi, including English. Okay? Because the over 50% of the world population is already Chinese and Indian. And so you're going to have to learn Mandarin and you're going to have to learn Hindi. And so Blade Runner predicted that back then. Okay, so they already had the Chinese population, Chinese communities, they already had it back then. Okay, so that's a second thing that it predicted. Okay, and then a third thing that Blade Runner predicted is artificial intelligence. Okay, androids with really sophisticated artificial intelligence. Do you remember all the different Nexus, Nexus androids? We're heading that way right now. Okay, we are developing extremely powerful artificial intelligence that's really basic right now, but it's growing, it's learning, and then the hardware wise, the hardware, they're going to build that out where it's going to be very synthetic. Okay, it's going to look like real humans. But first, you need to develop the AI. That's the most important, because if you don't have AI, it's just useless hardware. And so that's the third thing that Blade Runner predicted. We will have artificial intelligence with androids. Okay, and then I think one of the other things that Blade Runner predicted that is really going to happen, in my opinion, is that at a certain point, humans and artificial intelligence, there won't be like a line between them. Okay, so if you remember watching Blade Runner, especially the director's cut, at the end of it, it shows a little glitter in his eye. And so you are not sure whether or not Deckard is a human or an android. And more importantly, he doesn't even know that he might be an android. And so Blade Runner predicted so many things, and now it's happening. And I was initially, when I first saw Blade Runner 2049, I wasn't excited. I thought it was a bad idea. I mean, because in my opinion, there's certain movies that you should not make sequels to. Okay, in my opinion, I don't think you should make a sequel to Terminator 2, but that's already done and gone. And Blade Runner, I definitely do not think you should make a sequel to Blade Runner, because there's no reason to. But now, the early reviews, they're saying it's amazing. And so I can't wait to watch it. And let me see what else people are saying. So, okay, so I'll say Rose is saying, okay, Japanese and Chinese movies are great. Yes, Shatter, I love them. I love them. I love movies, period, but I really, really love international films. I love them. From China, from Japan, from Korea, from India. I watch movies out from Europe, South America. I will watch. I love movies. And so if you are the type of person, I think most geeks watch international cinema, you get a lot of different perspectives from watching it. And so what I want to do next, after I watch this one, I'm going to try to get to watch that Chinese film, Wolf Warrior 2. I saw Wolf Warrior 1. I wasn't all that impressed with it, but Wolf Warrior 2, it's like the biggest grossing movie in Chinese history. The action looks awesome. So I'm probably going to check that out next. So let me see. My top movie is Tron from 1982. George, man, yeah, Tron, part of my top 5. I absolutely love Tron. That was another future predicting movie where we have all worlds built inside computers, and we have that. We have the internet. We have MMOs, right? And so Tron is very similar to that, and now we have augmented reality. So we are living in a virtual world. And then later on, when they produce better optics and stuff, we'll have holodecks, right? And so we will be in a Tron world. I love Tron. That's awesome. I saw Blade Runner Retro Movie Theater. Awesome, Rose. Shatter, Tron Legacy. Oh, yeah. You know what, Shatter? Man, Tron Legacy was a mistake. I got to talk about that, because I'm like kind of mad about that. Gaza said we just need to turn the sky to turn black, and then we'll almost be living in a Blade Runner like experience. Well, Gaza, if you live in Beijing, the sky is black. That's another thing that Blade Runner predicted. There's overpopulation. There's going to be a lot of pollution. So George Shepard says Legacy not so much, but yeah, it's okay. I'm a pure sci-fi guy, so don't like random romantic movies. Gaza sings Barbarella. Yeah, Barbarella. Shata, you don't like The Notebook? Shame. Well, the funny thing is, The Notebook, Ryan Gosling is in Blade Runner 2049, so they're similar. Rose says transhuman is approaching. Yes. Rose says future humans might be more like Borg. Okay, so before I go further, let me talk about Tron Legacy because, man, Tron is another movie. I don't think there should have ever been a sequel to it. And Tron Legacy, I was so hyped up for that. Like, super hyped up. Especially, like, Kurt Russell was in it. Yeah, not Kurt Russell. Oh, crap. I can't remember his name now. If anybody could put his name on there. I can't believe. But you know who I'm talking about. Jeff Bridges. Yes. Tron Legacy, I was so hyped up because I love Tron. But at the same time, like, you shouldn't have made a sequel to Tron. And Tron Legacy ended up being a rehash of Tron, but in the worst way. I'm like, I wish they never made that. It's just, crap. Don't make another Tron. Or make a side of Tron. Name it something else. Because Tron is, like Blade Runner, just a classic. I mean, you love movies. It doesn't have to be sci-fi. You need to watch Tron. And Tron, I would say very similar to Blade Runner. If you watch it today, I think it still holds up really well. I mean, I do. I still don't see how they were able to do those type of effects back then. That was CGI before CGI. I love Tron. So yeah, for anybody who watches this, if you're thinking about doing a Tron Legacy, if you're the writers or producers, don't do another one, please. So, Rose, what happened, Starfighter? Rose, Last Starfighter. Yeah, Rose, Last Starfighter was sweet. Man, that was awesome. I love the scene in Last Starfighter. It's like a video game. It used CG as well. Okay, this is Last Starfighter was pre-Lawnmower Man. So if any of you are young enough, you've not seen Last Starfighter, watch Last Starfighter because there is a scene out in space where he's in a spaceship. It uses CG, pre-CG, I guess, and it just, I don't know, it spins around and shoots everything. Last Starfighter was, man, God, there's so many good sci-fi movies. I mean, in my opinion, I think the best sci-fi movies were in the 80s. In the 70s, of course, Star Wars came out, late 70s. And in the 60s, I'll always say this, 2001: A Space Odyssey. Yeah, and the sci-fi movies nowadays, in my opinion, they look great, of course, with modern technologies, but there's not as many impactful movies like Blade Runner, like Terminator 1, Terminator 2, Alien 1, Aliens 2. I don't know. I can't really think of too many. I think the last good sci-fi movie that I saw was The Arrival, which is also the same director, Villeneuve, who also does Blade Runner 2049. Jeff Bridges, thank you, Rose. Hey, Lance, good morning. How's it going? So we're ending off to the tail end of this, and we're talking about sci-fi movies because Blade Runner 2049 is coming out this week. There's already been early reviews, and it's just amazing. I love Blade Runner, but I love sci-fi movies. So guys, Last Starfighter, brilliant film. Watched this with my kids the other day. Yeah, man, Last Starfighter. Yeah, George Trepas, same thing happened to War Games. Yeah, War Games. They made a sequel. What? Why would you do that? I mean, for all you kids who, I hate to say that, kids, because anybody who haven't seen War Games, that had Matthew Broderick in it. It was a good movie. I liked it. They made a sequel that sucked and ruined a perfect good movie, War Games Dead Code. Yeah, stupid. Lance, back in the old days, they used real model ships and stuff. It was cool. Lance, absolutely, I agree with you. And, that's why I said some of these older sci-fi movies, I think they look better. I mean, if I go back to the old Star Wars trilogy, and as I mentioned, Blade Runner, Tron, 2001: A Space Odyssey, Aliens, I personally think a lot of their effects look better than the CGI stuff that we have today. I mean, the technology is getting better, but man, you just can't beat practical effects. I mean, it takes me out of the movie when I'm watching a movie, and I could tell it's like CG, and it just looks crappy in my opinion. It takes you out of the whole movie. And even these movies with like big budgets, I could still tell that it's not, it's not real. Whereas in the old days, when you had real models, real prosthetics, it just looks better. It just does. And because it is physical, when the actors are interacting with it, it's just way better. You remember Legend, right? With Tom Cruise? And also the guy who played the devil, Tim Curry, who also played It, from The Clown. that still looks awesome. I can think of so many movies, Dark Crystal, all of Jim Henson stuff. They all look better than anything CG today. About the only thing CG that I could think that gets close to that is things like Lord of the Rings with Golem and Planet of the Apes, both of which has Andy Serkis in it and both of which use the same company, Weta Digital. Okay, but other than that, I would take practical elements every day. Even Spaceballs had better effects because of the practical elements, and I love that movie. That was awesome. Okay, so George Trepper, sci-fi movies nowadays are all flashes and darkness. Yeah, George, I mean, I think a lot of times they just like recycle stuff, and I get that movies cost more to make nowadays, okay, and that's why I do like watching international film, and I also love watching movies in other places like Netflix, because when you are making a movie, right, it's a business. Just once again, you have to get your investment back, and so I understand why they like bring stuff out like Transformers, because it's a money grab, and they can't really take a lot of risks, okay, because a lot of times they don't get their money back, okay, even if the directors, the story writers, the actors and actresses, they really want to make a good movie, at the end of the day you got to make money from it. And so that's why we get the same stuff over and over, and that sucks. I mean, it really sucks. But since so much stuff is being done on the internet, like I said, companies like Netflix, international films, I still think there's hope. And since more of us are actually watching movies on the internet anyway, I think we'll get better movies, in the future. Okay. Lance says, did you watch Blade Runner 2049, Blackout 2022? Yeah, Lance. Yeah, I think Gaza asked the same thing. I haven't seen it yet. But I'm going to watch it. It's a really cool anime short. Yeah. And it's so funny, Lance and Gaza, you mentioned anime, right? I think a lot of us remember when it was called Japanimation. You remember when it was on VHS tapes. You remember when Japanimation was actually in the back of the VHS store somewhere. Just like nobody knew what it was. You would have Go Lion. You would have Fist of the North Star. Nobody knew what it was. But now, all of these type of genres from different parts of the world are mixing together. And that's why I mentioned things like this movie from India, Bahubali 2. This is where we're heading. We're going to have a even bigger global economy. And I have mentioned this before. China is the biggest market for movies. But the second biggest markets after the US is India. Okay, it's huge. And so we're going to have a lot more people watch international movies, okay? And I do want to say something. I know this might sound like elitist, but I think geeks, we are the head of the trend, okay? Geeks are doing a lot of things that I guess the majority of the population would do later, okay? So I'm going to put that right out there. If you're a geek, I think you should feel very special, okay, because you are doing things ahead of the curve. You're thinking about things usually ahead of the curve. You're using things that before the mainstream actually uses it, and so that's really cool. And that's one of the benefits of being a geek. And so George Trappist says, need example, get the Godzilla MOIE. It's so dark, and most of the times all you see are the subs if you are a foreigner. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, if you watch the actual original movies out from their countries, it's different, okay, because a lot of times when it gets to the US, when you do dubbing, you don't always get a direct translation, because in different countries their meaning is different. You might not be able to translate directly, and a lot of times by the time movies get brought out to places like America or in Europe, they have to be edited, okay? So I always watch the movies in the original language, if I can, and unedited. Like this one, the one on Netflix, Bahubali 2, this is actually in Hindi, but the original language is Tamil. So it's not the original language, but it's still the whole movie. Okay, and I still have to watch it with subtitles because I don't speak Hindi or Tamil. Okay, so Lance is saying, I watched Akira way back. That's what did it for me for anime. Yeah, Lance, Akira is still awesome today. And for me, the anime that did it for me was Fist of the North Star. That was the first anime, because I did watch Japanimation before that, right? When you were a kid, you probably got up for Saturday morning cartoons. I saw Transformers, Voltron, Robotech. That was my first introduction into Japanimation, i.e. Anime Today. But the first one that I saw that was ultra violent, like I've not seen that before, was Fist of the North Star. And that was on a VHS tape. It was in the back of the room in a video store, you know, because nobody knew what Japanimation was. And I've never seen that before. For me, Fist of the North Star was the one that got me really into Japanimation. And then second to it was Akira. And the reason why they did it for me is because they were not cartoons. You know, they dealt with really adult subject matters. They were, you know, they were like telling stories. And you know, if any, I think most people know by now, anime is a medium for you to tell a story. Okay, so it's not like in the United States before anime became big, a lot of people saw animation as for kids, okay, Disney films and stuff, okay? But in places like Japan, they don't treat animation as a separate thing just for kids. They treat it just another medium in order to tell a story, okay? And so, what's another one? Okay, Gaza If saying Alien, Blade Runner, Predator. Yeah, I forgot about Predator. Terminator, Ghost in the Shell. Yes, Ghost in the Shell. All excellent films. You can't be sci-fi nerd unless these feature in your top 10, in my opinion. Absolutely, Gaza. Yeah. I mean, if they gave like geek badges, that needs to be a requirement. You have to watch all of this. Rose says, China has too much censorship, it undermines movie making. Well, Rose, you know, like they do control, and you know this, Rose, because you watch movies in China. They do have a lot of control in terms of the type of movies that are made. That's why when you see a lot of movies from China, they have very similar themes because of that, okay? So a lot of times, I do watch Chinese films, but the films out of Asia that I enjoy the most are usually South Korean films. I love movies out of South Korea. Okay, Japanese movies, like real live action movies, I don't like most of them because they're just weird. I mean, I'm not really, you know, into that. You know, it's just weird for me. You know, some people really love live action Japanese films, but for me, I don't enjoy them as much. But obviously, animation, Japan's top for me. I love watching anime from Japan. Okay, so Rose says, strangely, guys, I saw all those movies. Yep. George Trump says, my first VHS was White versus Black Ninja. What? I've not seen that, George. That is one that I have not seen. But speaking of ninjas, I watched Ninja Scroll. And, you know, in the 80s, I think anybody can relate to this. You're a geek. You probably love ninja movies, right? This is on another tangent, but it was Revenge of the Ninja with Shogazuki. Love that. I love all his movies. American Ninja. And so a lot of these things that happened early in the 80s and maybe in the late 70s, they really introduced the whole idea of watching films from other countries, okay? And this is way before the internet. And now, guess what? You can watch international films anywhere, which is awesome. Okay, so Rose, yes, I know about Asian movies and TV because I'm from Southeast Asia, Korea and Japanese. Yeah, that's right. There's a lot of the Southeast Asian films, okay, I would say out of the Asian film community, okay, so if you watch a lot of international film, especially Asian cinema, people usually can think about Japan, China, and South Korea, right? But I also watch Filipino films and also films out of Indonesia as well. And so I watch films out of all that, okay? And then if you're talking about South America, I haven't seen too many of them. I've watched movies out of Mexico, and then there's some Brazilian films that I've seen as well. And then in terms of in Europe, I do enjoy watching some German films, and then also some Russian films as well. The first Russian film that I saw was probably Daywatch, okay? And that was the first one that I enjoyed, okay? And then Rose is saying, bye, Gaza. Goodbye, Gaza. Thanks for joining. Space Odyssey is still a great sci-fi movie. Yeah, Shatter. Wow, this is going on long. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up pretty soon. But George is saying, you watching any TV series? I love The Walking Dead, Last Man on Earth. Yeah, I myself, George, I don't really watch TV series because they do take a lot of time. But there are times, that's why I love Netflix, because if I really want to watch a series, I would just binge out. You know, I would just watch all the series in one sitting. And the last one that I saw was Defenders. And they had some good parts, you know, but I don't know. If there's one that I've only seen like 2 episodes of Walking Dead. I'm not really into the whole zombie thing, but from what I've seen, my brothers love The Walking Dead. My favorite series, I think I've mentioned this before, on Netflix in terms of a series is Black Mirror. That's awesome. I love that. That's probably my favorite series. And I'm not sure what other series I want to watch because, you know, it takes a lot of time. You know, if you're going to watch all the episodes, you're probably going to have to block out like 24 hours, 24 to 30 hours, I guess. You know, that's a lot of time. Okay, so I might check out, what was it? There was one with Anthony Hopkins. I don't know if it was on HBO. I can't remember. Westworld, yeah, the TV series. I heard that was good. Okay, so I'm binging the Game of Thrones. I've never even seen Game of Thrones, but I heard it's good. True Living, Seth Organics, you checking out again on Netflix? Yeah. Hey, what's up, True Living? Okay, okay, y'all. It is over an hour. I do want to keep this within an hour. This was a really fun episode, as always. I just, once again, I want to thank all of you for joining. We really have cool geek conversations, and I'm really glad on this episode we got to talk a lot about movies because I love movies, and y'all love movies, and we kind of love the same movies. And so, you know, whenever we do these shows, and I have mentioned this before, I do have some subjects that I talk about. I always talk about 3 different subjects, but what I also like to do is I don't really plan this out. I don't script anything, okay? And so having you on these shows, it makes things really, really interesting. And Ajin, yes, True Living Seth Organics, thank you for recommending that. I did watch it. It's pretty good. George, we love all movies. We are nerds and proud of it. Yes, we're proud. We're geek and proud and nerds, of course. So thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy these videos, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. And if you did want to support my channel further, you could do that at patreon.com/geekoutdoors. Thank you, geeks. We will see you on another live episode.